Hey, Ms. Chavez, how you doing? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, 10. Testing 1, 2. 1, 2. That was probably more my volume. Okay. I didn't skip any numbers, did I? Well, good evening, everyone. Let me just take this opportunity as we begin this presentation tonight to introduce myself. I am Dr. Fisher, Superintendent of the Roselle Public School District. For those who have had not the opportunity to meet personally, it's a pleasure seeing you and finding a little bit more about the individuals that we represent here in the community. Tonight, we just we call it a community presentation on the projects that we have up for a bond referendum here in the school district. So what I'll do is kind of walk you through, this is actually one of our, maybe our second presentation, but our most fullest presentation on the entire project itself. We do have a series of other community-based projects that we'll be sharing out in different forums. So tonight what I'll do, I'll be walking through this presentation, giving you pretty much a high-level view. And our second session that we will be holding, we'll have our team of professionals who will be sharing out some of the intricate details regarding the project. So what I'll do tonight is really walk through a few things. So again, I want to thank you all for coming out. That's right, there's plenty of seats up front. This may be the first and last time many of us get an opportunity to sit in first class. So please, if you want to move forward, please do so. Just some afternoon humor. We had a very full day of school district-wide activities that we engaged our scholars, but today we're focusing on our bond referendum. And as you may see on our logos on the very front of this presentation, we have building legacy, building possibilities, growing together. So that is something that we have inserted to be very systematic in regards to where we're going as a school district. So I'm hoping that as you hear this presentation, you'll understand a little bit about the bond referendum process. I do ask that if you've sent in questions, we have retrieved those questions from the online Google form. We received that information. I do ask that you save any questions that you may have for the conclusion. That way we can walk through the slides and share the information that we prepared for you this evening. We are prepared for a bond referendum on September the 15th, less than 60 days from now. The school district has embarked upon a referendum for a number of reasons. Back in 2021, we began this process when we developed a strategic plan where we invited our community partners to the table to tell us some of the challenges of our school district, but not only to tell us the challenges, but also where are we trying to go. And in that process, one of the glaring areas of concern was how do we address the facilities across the district. So this wasn't a 2026 initiative. It was really born back in 2021 toward the tail end of the pandemic period. So just to give you an idea, the bond referendum process is new terminology to some, and some it is something that they're very familiar with. But it's an opportunity for the school district to ask for permission to borrow money for projects. This district for the last 60 plus years have pretty much been debt free. That has a plus and minus in regards to how we maintain facilities. So this is an opportunity for us to address some of our facilities. This is similar to the home equity loan process. It's simply where we ask voters for their approval. In addition to that, we receive state aid. So it's a two-part process. One state aid half, and the other half is a part where we ask the taxpayers to contribute to this endeavor. Again, it's just another opportunity for us to receive upfront funding for all these projects within the next few years. How did we get here? Certainly, I remind folks, this plan has been 60 years in the making. I've worked in the school district for 36 years. So this is 24 years prior to me, there were issues in our schools. And one of the things you will see on our communication documents that we shared with you was a bond referendum that was produced back in 1967. It talked about the same problems in 1967, the same problems that we are experiencing in 2026. I was floored by looking at the original artifacts of that information, where it specifically said the kindergarteners are housed in the church. There are overcrowding in the junior high school. This was 1967. That problem has just been kicked down the road, unfortunately. So it really makes it important for me to stand here and put this before you. We proposed this plan, a new school, since 1967. One of the things I will tell you as part of this process, we have maximized all grant opportunities that are currently available. We apply for grants on a regular to support some of our programs across the district. We utilize our cap reserve to do the repairs that are necessary for these aging facilities. But this referendum strategy is something that we've used, we haven't used, but it's particularly focused on large-scale projects. It's not for the little things that we're able to do across the district. We're talking about those big-scale problems. And we're fortunate to be able to go this route for state aid. I believe sometime last year I had a conversation with some local officials, and we talked about, we were going a different route because we understood that let's try as many routes that we could do. Initially, we had conversations about what we call a P3 project, which is a public-private partnership. And unfortunately, there aren't companies out there willing to invest in a school for 30 years for those types of partnerships. If so, they have not knocked down any of the school district doors that I know of here in the state of New Jersey. We also pursued an opportunity to work with the UCIA for funding opportunities and engaged in conversations. Unfortunately, that didn't go anywhere. So it led us to our last but not least option to begin the referendum process. And as I tell my board commissioners regularly, this process is a full-time job because it requires that you look at lots of pieces of data and begin to start to study what's the problem in the district. It's not just about aging facilities, but it's also about the demographic shifts that we're seeing in our schools, which ultimately impacts our enrollment numbers. So those are things that we're looking to address. Again, this bond referendum are things that we can't, it's different from our annual school budget. Our annual school budget typically takes care of all those day-to-day expenses, whether it's personnel, safety and security issues, utilities, those sorts of things. When you want to do something on a larger scale, you have to ultimately go out for a bond referendum. We're proposing here in the Roselle School District, we're proposing a construction of a new pre-K to school building that will serve not only our school community, but this entire community for generations to come. One of the things we've looked at when we did a demographic study, we started to look at the trends of little people coming into the district. And looking at those numbers ultimately led us to, we are having a little people problem. We have more little people coming than we can keep up with. So we're starting to see the enrollment increase in our primary grades. So ultimately, it charges us to know that ultimately those little people become big people. So we need to be able to address that issue up front. This project will allow us to enhance our academic offerings for all our learners. We know that we're living in a different age. These school buildings were not designed for the type of learning that should be taking place currently in schools across the United States. We have a lot of STEAM initiatives that we've incorporated across the district, so certainly our facilities are not comparable to elevate those experiences to the next level. So part of what we're doing is making sure that we prepare future forward learning environments. We look to engage our community members in this process so that we can certainly shape the future of Roselle. I'm talking regularly to our educators, and our educators are looking to continually find opportunities to do workarounds, but at some point, workarounds bring you back to your starting point all over again. So we'll be looking for great opportunities to engage our community further. So I talk about what's being proposed, and what's being proposed is a new pre-K building on the Chandler Avenue site. And this is not the first time there was conversation about Chandler Avenue being a site. This is something that I've heard it for decades, and decades I've seen it go nowhere. Unfortunately, that puts us in a space of how do we optimize the current available property that we have as a school district. Learning experiences of districts around the state have spaces where they have maker spaces, they have innovative learning spaces, they have advanced cyber spaces, and those sorts of environments which elevate the learning opportunities for their students. So we certainly believe that the students here in the Roselle Public School District deserve the same. So we're certainly looking to be able to offer those opportunities. What part of our plan will allow us to put maker spaces in all of our elementary schools as well as our junior high school and our middle school. So we are looking to make a shift in regards to those offerings. Additionally, we are looking to add safety and security vestibules on all of our buildings. The downside of when we allow individuals into our building, once we buzz them in, they're in the building. And we know we need to enhance safety a little bit greater than that, simply buzz in, even you identified yourself, but we need to have an additional barrier. So we're talking about implementing safety vestibules on all schools. High school auditorium, we talked about in some of our communications, but certainly this location here, which you're currently sitting in, needs a lot of care, not a love and attention. So certainly, while it may feel good, certainly doesn't look good. There are some things that we're looking to address in this particular location. And I'll emphasize, we are looking to preserve our historical artwork. A question came to me and said, hey, you're going to take out this historical artwork. And someone from the class of, I believe, 67 sent me a message, and I said, we're not touching that, sir. So we'll just throw that out there. That artwork, and I talk about these items here, which date back to 1943. That's something that we're looking to preserve. We are looking to build a transition center, well, not build a transition, but our central office space, we're looking to convert that into a transition center. And we're talking about our 18 to 21 population, teaching a host of skills for our disabled adults who are transitioning through our district. So it's important for us to do that because on one side, those students have to go out of district for those types of services. Well, why not create a space within our district where we can provide the same type of services at a fraction of the cost? So we're looking to be able to service that population. And everything I'm describing, there are depictions up here in the front which will show you exactly what those locations look like. We talk about space, our staff, they do a great job, stuffing stuff in closets and under desk and those sorts of things. Let's take the kindergarten, for example, housed at our St. Joe's location across 3 floors. And we talk about that location. I'm very familiar with the location because I served as a principal in that location. And I know about the pain points of that location. There is no storage. Most classes don't have a storage closet. Most of our, as you can see on our image on the screen, we have a classroom which is actually being an overflow space, which is in the hallway. That's a not conducive environment for teaching and learning. So you talk about having small group instruction or even displacing staff members to work in these awkward spaces. So I think that's important to know because, again, I would have a problem if my office or my workspace was in the hallway. It just doesn't feel right and is not conducive. And again, our small group instruction areas are very small, so certainly it's part of my responsibility to find opportunities to address those types of challenges. We proposed a new school on the Chandler Avenue property. It is a 3-story location, and one of the things that is so important about this location, one, we own the property. That's a great thing. You own it. Use what you got. So that's a cost that we don't have to worry about. We own the property. It's been sitting dormant for quite some time, and I'm not sure who's living there now, right? So it's been that long that the property has been dormant. But we are looking to focus on our earlier learners. What I'll talk about as we go through this, this is a visual schematic of an aerial shot of the acreage that we have. I believe it's just a little over 5 acres of space. And when we looked at this space, one of the things we decided to do was to really look at how do we optimize this particular space? How do we look at this space in a way that we're able to do all the things that we need to do for our early learners that we cannot do in our current physical spaces? And I think it's important that as you look at these layouts and you have an opportunity to see the full display, you'll get an opportunity to see how we've optimized the current space itself. One of the things that I like to point out on this slide is that we have a first floor area, which we know how important it is to have communal space. We've already identified that in order to optimize a location, we need to create communal space. And when we talk about communal space, we talk about having our community have access to a facility outside of our school hours, such as having access to the gymnasium, having access to the auditorium, and also having access to a cafeteria. Every school across the district, except with the exception of the high school, has cafetoriums. They have combinations of rooms. So not only do you have a cafeteria, you also have the cafeteria serving as the auditorium. The auditorium also serving as the gym. And if you visit any of our elementary schools, you often wonder, why is the cafeteria tables in the gym? Well, where else do you put them? There are no other places to put the tables, right? So those are challenges that the schools face. And certainly, can you have an assembly while you're having lunch? That is a scheduling nightmare when we talk about having programming for students and we have these shared spaces. This new facility has a first floor location, which it has it's designed to have a partitioned off building section where it allows that communal access to do those other things, but it also gives the schools the flexibility of doing multiple activities simultaneously without having scheduling nightmares. And I'll give you an example at, I believe, the middle school. They have 4 lunch periods. That's because there's no way to have the 457 students eating lunch between 2 periods in the auditorium, in the cafetorium. So it is a scheduling challenge. So they have 4 lunch periods. So those are the types of things that we work toward addressing. Our second floor area is another beautiful space which has it's been identified to create innovative learning spaces within the building. We're moving into this tech generation, so certainly we start to engage our youngsters in technology at a very young age. So one of the things you'll notice is that we have a innovative learning space, but we also have some STEAM labs. And for those who are not familiar with STEAM labs, STEAM is just an acronym for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. So certainly it's an opportunity as we prepare our younger scholars, we bridge the pathway as they progress through the school district. So on that particular floor, you'll notice you see a host of learning spaces that will allow us to do so. You may see on the screen, it may be difficult to see, we have what we call an SGI space. It's called small group instruction, whereas you saw on a previous slide where we had a small group instruction set up in the hallway. Now we have small group instruction, which can actually take place in designated locations on the second floor, as well as actually the first, second, and third floor of this particular building. And again, it takes us to our final level of the building, which has, again, it is another level of the building having similar spaces. The only difference is it doesn't have an innovative lab on that level. It's not designed for that particular. It kind of has that triangular design. As you go higher, the building begins to change for aesthetic purposes and a flow. This building also is designed to be to accommodate 10 pre-K classrooms, 12 kindergarten, 12 first grade, 12 second grade, which gives us a total of 46 learning spaces. And if you look on the right side, we've identified spaces that we have to provide accommodations for. We have 3 spaces that are designed for our special education classes, 6 small group instruction, that's that SGI I referred to. We talked about the STEM labs in the building, and we also have that technology lab. So there are a lot of different spaces that really excite the educators who know that if I only had space to do this, I would do it over here. Certainly, this building also has the capability of allowing our youngsters to do podcasting and those sorts of experiences. So we're excited about the possibilities of this particular space. So I'm going to invite Dr. Washington up. She knows this is her slide. Come on up here. And I know I'm giving a lot of information, so it's important for me to be able to share this information, which is critical, but I think it's important for us to hear it and also see it here this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Fisher. I just walked in. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So, the question that I've seen online, the question that people have asked is, why is pre-K a priority? We are currently providing pre-K to only about a quarter of our 300 children that are eligible for free pre-K. Many of the children are missing out on this early foundational learning that helps them develop strong educational, social, and motor skills. And our parents know that. And more importantly, our pre-K is free, and parents are paying for daycare when their children could be socializing in a different environment with other children. Again, students are also in lease spaces, and we call these spaces lease spaces because we're paying the rent to other organizations and other places that we don't own. So students learning in lease spaces that are not really designed for early education, but we made it so. And more importantly, the demand for pre-K will continue to grow as new housing is built. And our council is here, and I'm urging you to understand that significant priority and the dire need. If we keep building housing, we can't expect people to not start families. Next slide. Yes. We're going to talk about the development in Roselle. As a Roselle resident, when I bought my home in the 5th Ward, it was the Park Apartments, and they were in their early phases. So the data completion at the Park Apartments right now has been phase 4 and 5. They completed 346 additional units, and that was in 2024. There's now a new initiative going up called the Edison that is slated to be completed by summer 2027, and that will be another 195 units for a total of 541 new units in the borough. That's not counting the new homes that were developed by Rose Homes here and across mostly over in, I'm going to say, the 2nd Ward where Polk School is, where they built the new park. And around 9th Avenue. There's been a lot of new development there. And in this slide, you'll see pre-K registration increase from 47 students in 2025 to 76 students in the 2026-2027 school year, and now we're going into 27-28. The cost of insufficient space. Currently, Roselle Public Schools pay more than $500,000 a year to lease these pre-K and kindergarten spaces. Some of our students with special needs are educated out of the district at a cost of around $150,000 per student. And that cost is not only the tuition, it includes transportation, and it includes a one-to-one nurse where they may need a one-to-one nurse. Our state grants currently provide about $17,000 per pre-K student. However, we haven't been able to maximize that revenue. Our current state, we have a growing need for early education. Early education. Everyone knows that preschool and kindergarten education are the foundations that all of our scholars depend on. We have limited room for pre-K and kindergarten at all 3 of our early elementary schools. As I said in the prior slide, we're renting space that serves more than 200 kindergarten students in our Kindergarten Success Academy. And as of 2025-2026, we also started renting space right across the street here for our pre-K students at what we call First Light Academy, and that is at the Presbyterian Church. And that is still not enough. Even though we hold a lottery, the spots for families, there are many families that are still remaining on the list because we can only accept 50 students in that lottery. And then we also hear from many parents who are frustrated that have moved here that wanted to put their children in pre-K, and they can't because they did not get chosen through the lottery. And in the future, We want our schools that are made and designed particularly for our young learners. The current school, if you can look here on the foam boards, will be a 3-story building with pre-K and kindergarten on the first, pre-K and kindergarten on the first and second floors. There is going to be enough storage, dedicated space for activities, most importantly, ADA compliant features, including an elevator. Because not just students may be disabled, their caregivers, their grandparents can now get into this space. I remember one time having to reschedule a meeting here, and we needed to go upstairs to the media center. And there was a resident who was very adamant about being in that meeting. I watched her walk upstairs with crutches. That was unacceptable because we don't have a way. These buildings are not designed for the future of citizens and members of our community. Things happen, life lives, and these buildings are just not designed with our future or the future needs of students in mind. These buildings will have equally sized classrooms, all with bathrooms inside, and a gym and an auditorium that will also be available for community use, as all of our buildings are available for community use right now. Our new school would reshape the entire district. All of our students will start an education in a district-owned building. No more transitions in and out of spaces. Our grade levels will have to be reconfigured, and fewer transitions are better for academic and social growth. I think that that would be a good thing. Most parents, and you can get to form community in your building. That will also help with social, emotional, socialization, and students can form their own communities with one another. And moving pre-K and kindergarten would free up elementary space. Is this your slide or mine? Well, so right now, as you all know, if you're parents here, there are a lot of transitions throughout our school district. Students will attend, by the time they graduate, as many as 6 schools from pre-K to 12. They attend 4 different schools between grades 4 to 9, and all these changes require students to readjust socially. And it's more challenging, as I mentioned before, to build relationships and have continuity of services. Any questions before I continue? Our future, we want greater stability for our students. In every school, students will be there for at least 3 years. It's more time for our staff to work with them and understand and meet their students' individual needs. Leonard V. Moore and Grace Wilday would become junior high schools. And students would choose junior high based on an area of interest in the arts or STEAM. Dr. Fisher, you want to talk about the reconfiguration? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Washington. And as Dr. Washington mentioned, she talked about the transition. And as you can see in the column on the left, we talk about the now. But it took me back thinking about when I first stepped in as superintendent. One of the challenges, we had gotten a letter from the state, and they said that our preschool program that was being housed over at the Agape Church didn't meet the requirements, size requirements. So part of that, they said, we'll give you until next year to figure out a location for those pre-K, and that was it. And mind you, that was a decision. I said, okay, I just started the job. What do I do? But we went to work, and we figured out a way to bring our pre-K kids back into the district, which meant we had to retrofit elementary classrooms to fit kids, the pre-K kids into our 3 elementary schools and renovate those spaces. And that really birthed the modulars that we put up at all 3 elementary schools. That was part of that process because we didn't have space. Now, when you get the letter from the state, you can't say, well, what do you want me to do? Well, if they threw it back and said, figure it out. So we were able to figure that out. But as part of that, one of the things we talk about the now, our pre-K and our K students, as we're going to emphasize, they are housed in a rented space. And again, serving as the principal, I got great context to this because the very first year we moved into the St. Joe's location, the business administrator at the time, Mr. Campana, said to me, he said, in 3 years, you make sure you remind somebody that we need to be out of here. And that's the message he left me. And I said, man, I just got here, but the great thing about it, 15 years later, I'm having that conversation about, hello, let's do something about it. So I talk about that because it's so important to know that I've seen this transition challenge. 6 schools, during the course of a career in this small community, to me is unacceptable. It is a travesty to not have kids have a sense of community by moving so quickly across the district. We talk about our 1 through 4 in our elementary. We talk about our 5, 6, 7, 8, then 9, 12. It's just too much movement between schools. Certainly 9 to 12 is a traditional journey, but when you think about all those movements in our youngsters across the district, that's a problem we certainly believe that attributes to student achievement. A new configuration allows us to do a pre-K to 2 location and to reconfigure our grades to grades 3, 5 in our all 3 elementary schools, and our junior high school, L.V. Moore and Grace Wilday schools both become junior high schools, creating what we call career pathways for kids to have early career pathways, making a choice to either go to the junior high of L.V. Moore or the junior high school of Wilday, creating new learning experiences, and ultimately continue with our 9 to 12 program. If you've been in Roselle quite some time, the high school used to house the 8th graders here in the high school. That was a long journey, and it was a first step in the right direction, getting the 8th graders out of the high school. But it resulted in bumping and creating something else. So we are here in 2026 looking at opportunities where we can build on that momentum that was established back then. I want to share with you, because we don't have the spaces to provide these advanced learning opportunities, we decided to do something about it. We said, well, let's, as collectively, why don't we create our own mobile STEAM space? Since we don't have the space, let's bring the space to all of our schools across the district. You got one problem, you got to come up with a solution. And we've been fortunate enough to purchase a STEAM machine, which has created some innovative learning opportunities. And we are proud to say that even our kids now are having a STEAM tank event. I'm not sure how that turned out today, but learning some critical skills that we believe will allow them to be very productive as they progress. We're talking about maker spaces in our buildings because certainly if you have watched any of the trends of teaching and learning, kids are more in an exploratory mindset these days, playing with different tools, creating new things, and that's the way of learning. The traditional way of learning has changed drastically. It is no longer the same as it used to be. For example, we don't have a whole lot of paper to give you this evening. We gave you a QR code. And that's just a drop in the bucket in terms of how the learning experience. Kids are now immersed in this new technology learning space where immersive learning experiences are what they're looking for. So as part of our responsibility as a school community is to create those future forward experiences for them. One of the things we know, as we convert these spaces, we expand opportunities in our science, design, and engineering. I was just having a conversation with a comic designer who talked about the opportunities that exist in these interactive spaces where kids who like to draw, but who also like to create these images through gaming experiences. So part of what we've done here in the school district thus far is retrofit spaces that allow us to have what we call esports experiences, which is just the beginning, because one of the things that comes out of those experiences, similar to the maker spaces, it allows kids to create stuff, create simulation, develop those critical thinking skills early on. Here in the auditorium, I talked about it briefly, but we are looking to restore this location. Certainly, if you sit up in some of the front seats, you may go straight to the floor. That's just the way that some of the chairs are. They have ran their test of time. We have light fixtures in here that certainly need some attention. Our woodwork in this location requires some attention. So we are committing ourselves to make sure that we continue to build up this experience, and such as our staging area. But I'm proud to say that we were challenged with this location, but we're putting the final touches on our dance studio, which is across the hall outside of the small gym. So we are continuing to retrofit spaces, but at some point you start to burst in terms of where else do we go? What else do we take away? What do we renovate to make a new learning space? Again, we're looking to enhance this entire space, so design this, and again, these are depictions, they are not the final. We are certainly, I know the wall here appears that it doesn't have the pictures on the images, but we are looking to preserve that artwork, but we're looking to bring it up to standards. And our goal is, again, to really renovate the high school space, in which we've been doing a lot of work here at the high school currently. If you pulled in the parking lot, you may notice at the parking lot here, you may notice at parking lots, we have some trailers that we had in the district that had 20 to 30 year life sentences here in our district. Take the Harrison School trailer, I believe it was about 35, 40 years old. It had numerous challenges, whether it was rodent infested, whether it was leaky roofs, those types of things. If you drive by the Harrison School now, it has been knocked down. It is gone. That brown trailer is gone. You will see by the end of the summer, you will see new trailers at all those new locations, because what our mission has been, how do we find ways with our current resources to replace some of these outdated spaces that create other problems, while simultaneously looking to do things future forward. Again, I talked briefly about the safety entrances. It's important to be able to make sure that we have some barriers so that times have changed. So certainly it's our responsibility to enhance safety. I tell folks, I'm not waiting for something to happen. I am going to be ahead of it. So if you're looking for data on what's happening, I watch the news. So that's my data. I try to be in front of that. I want to make sure I have safe learning environments for all kids and all staff members. So that's part of my responsibility. So we are charged ourselves to look at, through our security department, what else can we do to make sure that we're not vulnerable from outside forces. And again, these are some additional depictions of vestibules at all schools. And again, it's just another opportunity for us to ensure that we are protecting our kids when they're in the building. And one of the big things, as I talked about the transition center, which is to be the renovated location of the central office. Our central office, which is located at 710 Locust Street, we understand the priority. And one of the things, and part of this priority says that we need to be able to service our students with disabilities and our adults with disabilities. So we have made it a priority to develop space for programming that addresses those particular needs. And typically what folks think that, we can send these types of services out, but we're trying to foster a sense of community, keeping things here, because every time we send kids to certain programs, there's a cost associated. So we're looking for opportunities, and also to ensure that our families of students with disabilities understand that we talk about all students matter. Here's an opportunity for us to show you that all students matter. So our efforts are really focused on servicing those students, and we are looking to provide them with learning spaces that foster independent living, because that's truly something that is very important that we want to ensure that we do. And I know some of the surrounding communities have similar programs, and I often tell folks, I said, we just have to create the space and make it a priority so that we can address that population. Again, we just want to, I'm off on my slides, but I just want to make sure that everyone knows. So we have 2 bond questions that we're putting out there. We have a projected cost, and it's a $79.7 million project. 2 years ago, when we were working some things out, this project was around $60 million. And within a 2-year span, numbers and costs of living just started going up and up and up. Everything, there's a new cost to everything. We pursued the avenue, we petitioned the state, and once you get state approval, one of the things the state does, they ask all the questions. Why do you need that? Show us the number of displaced students. Show us your challenges. So they go through a very rigorous process. Even before you even have conversations with the public, they'll look at everything and say, yes, we're going to fund partially your program. And what they do is they give you a calculation based on a percent of eligible costs that they call PEC of eligible costs. And if I just take one step back, because these 2 questions, I just want to emphasize something before I even get there. Prior to this, one of the things that this administration has done and this board has done is, for the last 6 years, we have been fiscally responsible in terms of how we managed our budget. We've kept our budget either at 0% increases for a number of years, or we kept it under 1% increase annually. And that, to me, is a significant commitment to being fiscally responsible. Now we're in a situation where, we couldn't, again, we just can't build a building without asking for more significant funding. We're now looking for a project that we're looking to borrow money over a 30-year period of time. We've gone through the process. It is estimated at approximately $60 per month. When we calculated it, maybe $2 a day, but most people don't pay bills daily, they pay monthly. So it's easy just to tell you, well, how much would you pay for that particular month? And that's based on the assessed property value, not what you believe your home is worth. We're talking about the assessed property value. And we have information within your package that'll tell you how to calculate your assessed property value. There is a calculator on our website which allows you to, one, find your property and find your property assessed value, to plug back into the box to tell you what would your cost be. Most of the homes that I've had an opportunity to look at, I talked to a guy, he said, our house is worth $500. When we went to look at his assessed value of his home, it was $140. He said, oh man, who came up with that number? I said, I don't come up with that number. I'm just telling you what's available for tax records. He plugged his number in and said, oh man, I'm only gonna pay $59 a month. That's not bad. So you have to check on what your individual situation is and plug the appropriate number in. Question number 2, we classified as a project for our additional items for those innovative spaces such as the transition center, security vestibules, also the innovative space, the transition center, those 3 things, and some other repairs that are listed in there. That's a total project cost of $7.4 million. And you notice the state aid contribution is $4.2 million, because the state will give you more money for renovation versus new school. That's the difference. They'll give you more money for renovating spaces than for a new school. And that, again, that's why it looks a little different. Like, why don't they only give us $5 million on this side? It's because it's new versus a renovated space. They'll give you a higher percentage of, and unfortunately, our buildings don't have the ability to do those types of renovations that we need to service the district. And I often like to tell people when I'm talking about money, we have an $80 million school budget, $80 million school budget. $26 million is paid by the local taxpayers. $26 million is paid by the local taxpayers. $54 million is provided by federal and state aid. So in my mind, my charge is to put it where folks can understand. I'm getting more money from the state of New Jersey and the feds to support our school district than we're locally contributing. So I think it's very important to emphasize. That's why as we go out, I'm a believer of we have to do something for ourselves, because I believe there's nobody out there trying to save us. So part of this effort is to put this bond referendum out there to show the taxpayers that, hey, we've exhausted grants, we've exhausted alternative resources, we've exhausted a lot of different things to make this come to fruition. And I will also let you know that this QR code is actually in your document, which will give you an opportunity to get what your tax impact looks like. But I do want to share that I don't stop my team and I, we just don't stop. We look for other alternative resources. And we just got notification from one of the assembly women and the senator that due to this upcoming appropriations that we'll be receiving an additional $1.4 million to help us with our projects. So we've been out there asking, but now we're at the point where now we're asking the taxpayer. Like, we done asked everybody. I start talking to our vendors. Hey, can you help us with this bond referendum? What could you do? Could you sponsor our innovative learning spaces? So those are conversations that I'm having. So that's just I call it the low-hanging fruit. If you want to be able to be in partnership, we need your partnership to help us with these endeavors. So I don't want to get too far off the slides, but I am very passionate about this effort, and I just want to let you know that this process requires that we go through selling bonds, we go through this whole process. So tonight we don't have our bond counsel here tonight. We don't have our financial advisor here, but on August the 18th, we will have all our professionals available, all our professionals, and that information we're going to be pushing out. All our professionals, our architect, our financial advisor, thank you, and our financial advisor, we're going to have all those individuals who can talk about money, because I know people have asked, like, what is the amortization of, how is it calculated, how is it drawn down, and I'll just say that's a different department. I'm in this other department, but those financial folks have been able to give me all those nuances to be able to see how those and what the cost is annually. We also will have our marketing team that will also be available to also talk about some of the things that we've been putting forth. So I'm looking to be able to share this, and we wanted to make sure that we got this meeting this month. So we were very persistent to do that today, to make sure that we had this initial conversation, because this is not a secret. We've been pushing it out to our families in our school district because they are feeling the pain each and every day they enter our schools. So we certainly make sure that we communicate with our families. So this has not been a secret. Our social media platform has shared a host of information as we put this information forth. We are also now having conversations with our seniors because there's some opportunities that we can help our seniors who can get some type of tax relief, whether it's a senior tax freeze. So we've already identified that particular resource, and there's a lot of information. But again, this is information we wanted to put forth to the public tonight. I think I'm coming to the close of what I had prepared, but part of what we're trying to do is move the school district forward. And that's what this is all about. It has, often people say, well, somebody trying to get their name on the building. I don't know who name would on the building, but right now it's called the Chandler Avenue Pre-K to 12 school, right? That's what it says. It's not, has nothing to do with it, but it's about the need. And I just want the community folks that are here, it's about the need. And if nobody's going to stand up, I told you 36 years, I have yet to be in a presentation that talks about the now, what's about to happen on September 15th. I have yet to be in that presence. So this is important to me. It's important to my team. I have district administrators who I charge them to hop on one leg until we get there. It's important to know that this is impactful. This particular project will outlive everyone in the room. Certainly. These buildings have outlived the forefathers of these buildings. So it's important that we plan future forward. Where they got the money from back then, I have no idea. But somehow they did it. LV Moore School is on the book. It's costing $1.6 million when it was built. So I look at those types of numbers and I look at trends. So I just wanted to say that and say it's important for me and this board to be able to know that we are focused on moving forward. Ms. Gonzalez, who is the principal standing in the rear of the auditorium, currently lives the painful experiences of being a principal in the KSA and the challenges that she faces. She told me she canceled her gym membership because she has to walk 3 flights. So and I told her, I said, well, that's one of the benefits of the job. Okay. So I think I've covered just about. I do have an opportunity. There was a couple of questions that we had emailed in. I want to make sure I respond to those questions first. And thank you for those who had took the time to send in a couple of questions. And one of the questions I hope I answered was, why did the state only determine $5 million for the $79.7 million project, which was deemed eligible cost? Can we give an explanation and determination? So again, the state uses a formula. They have a very specific formula that they use to determine aid eligibility across all projects. New construction is always significantly less than the aid for renovations, as I spoke to. That's why when you see state aid covering more than half of the question number 2, it's because renovations qualify for more more funding. Again, we took extra steps to secure additional funding. As I mentioned, we had Assemblywoman and the senator commit $1.4 million to this particular endeavor, so we're thankful for that. Question number 2, will part of the fund go towards addressing air conditioning at the Abraham Clark High School? And air conditioning is not a part of this particular project because it is a 2-phase process here at ACHS. ACHS has a number of air-conditioned locations, but what we have prior to that is the need for updating the electrical capacity here at the high school. So that's like a project before that, which is it's already queued up for future needs or addressing that. And then the AC becomes the second part of that process. Again, but I will emphasize, most people don't know, we've already been able to fund about $12.1 million worth of HVAC work over the last 5 to 6 years across the district. I know, for example, if you look at Polk School, which is our only fully HVAC location, we prioritized our resources when we had our ESSER funding, and they are the only school that has a little jealousy that comes with that, right? But they are the only school that has HVAC capacity at that particular school. I also want to answer another question. Due to the current government administration, prices have soared, making even the smallest project astronomical. Would it not be prudent to wait a couple of years to see if the costs come down? $79 million is a lot of money for a school. So I've yet to see real estate go down unless it's, in deteriorating, but the cost of materials are going up. The cost of materials are going up. We don't, I think it's like $600 per square foot when you calculate the cost of a building. So you talk about $600 per square foot, you really have to get the calculator out when you want to compute that. The state requires that we include a contingency fee when we put these projects together in the event that prices go up or down. So it's part of what the state requires that we have to adhere to. When a building was this same type of building was proposed back in 1967, I wrote the cost down. It was at a cost at $1.75 million. That was back in 1967. Same building, slightly different configuration, same types of foot space, $1.75 million. So as the times continue to pass us by, unfortunately, the costs go up. Another question, how much taxes the residents of the Roselle will be paying toward this project? How is the new staff of the building going to get paid? Part of what we, how much it's going to cost the resident all depends on that calculation that you saw that I shared, the calculations. That's how you determine what that cost would look like. And again, every home will be different. Every home will certainly be different. Again, I saw one home that had a value of $110,000, and that was one of the homes I looked at. I said, oh, it was a very nominal. And again, I don't know what location it was, but again, it was just an opportunity for me to toy around with numbers. Our teachers are now, we currently have teachers that are working pre-K to 2 across the district. So again, we talked about the Kindergarten Success Academy. We also talked about the kids who attend the First Light Academy. So we have staffing in our early childhood space. But part of the great thing about preschool is under this umbrella what they call preschool expansion grant. So we're very fortunate to take advantage of the preschool expansion grant. That allows the state to give us extra money to fund our preschool children. So again, we have taken advantage of that. That's, as you heard Dr. Washington mention, we have additional 50 kids that we were able to service because, again, we created additional classroom space, again, requiring us to hire and be able to hire another teacher to service our pre-K program. Part of this building savings and revenue opportunities will help us offset, just to kind of give you an idea. We talked about some of the dollars that would be coming back to the district as reduction from our rented space. Again, finance people know that, hey, if you're no longer paying for this, you now have the ability to use that money over here. So those are things that, and again, it's a very meticulous process because finance people have their own language in terms of this is what you'll be able to, okay, and their projections are a little different. So when our finance team comes in, they'll be able to give you a little bit more specifics. The other thing is you heard Dr. Washington mention about the opportunities for that $17,000 that we would be able to receive. So there are, and this is no secret, for every student, there are dollars associated with that. And we talk about our state aid. I told you, $26 million from our local tax levy, $54 million from our state and federal funding. That's based on kids and calculations and programs. So based on programs, we're able to ensure that we optimize those types of dollars for our district. Can the district provide an itemized breakdown, an estimated projected cost for both referendum questions? Well, I noted if the referendum is approved, the work will be awarded through, there's what they call a competitive bidding process. Example, when the borough and the district worked on the field house at Arminio, that was through a competitive bidding process so that you can get the best possible deal in that process. So it is a competitive experience. The other question, so again, for me too, our financial guys will give you those particular details. I'm gonna stay in my lane. My lane is over here. The finance people talk about all the numbers and the decimals and all that good stuff, and how you calculate percent annually. So I know Mr. Bishop's over there. He has this calculator going on. But again, what specific expenses are included in soft costs of the projects? Are these costs included with the published project totals, or are they in addition to the $87 million? The estimated project costs are included in the soft costs. So every project has to have what they call soft costs. So we talk about the furnishings in our building. There are things that will be furnished within our buildings. Those are the soft costs that we have. Fees that are associated with professionals, whether it's architecture, whether it's permits, all those things are all included in those numbers. So those aren't things that we would worry about because they are inclusive in that process. Again, because the district cannot spend more than the public approved. So if the project went over to $89 million, we would have a problem, because we were only approved for $79 million. So we have to stay within those confines, and as part of that process, the financial people keep it right in that realm. That is very important. So again, the soft costs include the permits. It includes site development, the financing, design. There are a lot of professionals who work around a building. It's just not one person who deals with making it happen. It is very consuming, so it is included. Is this proposed pre-K expansion expected to provide universal access for eligible students, or will enrollment continue to depend on available capacity or other eligibility criteria? So our construction is, we're anticipating and inclined. We're watching the enrollment increase, so we are projected out. So our goal has been to we got to stay ahead of it. I'm always happy when I see, when I was at the KSA, to see the moms that were expecting. I said, okay, we're going to be all right. We got kids coming in, at least I know 5 years out, I got one more, right? So people aren't, families are still having families. They're creating families. So it's our responsibility to be able to service that. So we're going to continue to prioritize our 5 and 6 year olds. Actually, our 3, 4, 5, and 6, right now. It's getting smaller and smaller. But so our goal is to optimize that. But part of what preschool expansion still requires that we do is to have community partners. So chances are a 3 and 4 year old will have somewhere to go if they're not within the Roselle Public School District, because part of the grant says you need to partner with Allegers. You need to partner with one of the other daycare centers. You will have to partner. It's part of the responsibility. Finally, what it will do, it will help us eliminate or minimize a waiting list. So we certainly don't anticipate having 100 kids sitting on a waiting list, because we've addressed that problem. And again, it is so future forward because we know that it is something and there's a need. What procurement process will be used for selecting architects, engineers, construction managers, contractors? What oversight measures will be in place for transparency, accountability, and fiscal responsibility? Well, the great thing about that question, that's really not my job. So that is the job of our business administrator, and who works to ensure that they follow all the procurement processes. And again, I said the competitive bid process. Everything is a competitive bid process. So currently, our architects are our architects. Our financial advisor is our financial advisors, and our bond attorney is our bond attorney. So those folks are not a part of that question in terms of do we go out for bids on those. So all those other services that will be needed, professionals, will come out of, go through that process. The process is done, and again, I'll say this, is done publicly, transparently, through meetings, which will be held here via the Board of Education, because that information will be presented here, and it will be voted on by our board commissioners. So it'll be very systematic, just like our local government, as they go through the processes for bidding on certain things. We go through that same processes, because as we're audited every year, the first thing they ask us, let me see all the bids for this particular fiscal year, and they begin to review the process, and they look to see that you filed, did you post the bid? How many respondents? Okay, how did you award? Where are the rating sheets? So those are things that all bids, no matter what public entity you're a part of, we follow that same process. Okay, and I think I had that's the prescribed questions that I had listed. I think it may be an opportunity to take a few questions. Yeah, if you want to. Yes. All right, you take it out there.
Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent. I just have two questions. They are financial based, but they're not detailed, so they're theoretical. I'll be back on the 18th, and we can crunch the numbers. As far as the 30-year amortization period, in your conversations with the bond counsel and the financial advisor, was that the maximum amortization period that could be done?
So I'm going to defer to the bond counsel on that particular question. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if they explored a 50-year. I'm not even certain if they went that far. Okay.
And the second question I had, is there any aspect of this new project which could actually be revenue generating? Like we have auditorium, there'd be a state-of-the-art auditorium, state-of-the-art gym. Can any of those things, whatever, be turned into a revenue generating source?
That's a great question, and the answer is yes. Certainly it could be. For example, there are some schools locally who rent out their auditorium for performances, dance recitals, and those sorts of things. So certainly we would look to take advantage of those type of opportunities.
Good evening, Dr. Fisher. I'm not sure why my questions, maybe because I guess I did it last night or the night before, but I had three questions. One, you answered a little as far as the air. I didn't just mention Abraham Clark, but throughout the air conditioning, was that part of this? And you said no. You had already started the work as far as the electrical. So when do you think that'll be caught up throughout the district?
So we have so the question on the floor is about when we'll be caught up in for AC, and we have a long-range facility plan that we operate under, so we begin to prioritize building needs across the district. So there is a schedule for those types of items, and I will say that in most of our schools across the district, whether most classrooms, most general spaces have AC of some sort. Our challenge is, again, we're dealing with older buildings, so we're making sure that we have the electrical capacity to accommodate those needs. So that's being queued up. So these are all things that we are looking to do through our capital reserve those types of projects.
Okay. The other question was as far as will SEL or therapeutic rooms be included in the project?
Well, that's a great question, and it's actually on a future slide that has a very therapeutic space. I can't think of the terminology. A therapeutic space that allows for those types of purposes. So we are looking to, again, those are spaces that I'm very excited about because, again, most of our schools, actually all of our schools are schools that focus on SEL and SEL and the whole social-emotional learning and character ed. So we are looking to develop those spaces, particularly in the new school, yes.
Okay, and the last question was similarly, I mean, you would definitely see this in KSA. I'm not sure about the other buildings because I'm only familiar with the KSA, Washington, and Abraham, but will the specials, gym, art, music, will there be spaces for those classrooms to be held? I know most teachers migrate to the classrooms, but will they have their own individual spaces in the future?
I thank you for facilitating that question. That is certainly the expectation of this building. All specials, you may not be able to, well, if you come up, you'll see there's a music room, there's an art room, there's a host of other spaces, but I didn't highlight in this particular presentation, but yes, it is the goal. Because when I first got to the KSA, I would tell you the pain point was everything was in the classroom, everything from gym to lunch. And that was painful. And we've come a long way, but it's certainly a pain point, whether it was a journey. But kids have a little bit more, but I know Ms. Gonzalez will say it's not enough, but we've come a long way. All right. Yeah,
Hi, Ms.
all right.
Chavez, how are you?
And I could have, before, and the mom who just spoke, it's very interesting because I like when I run into families who have kids at multiple levels. And, you know, they get an opportunity to see as the kids progress through the district, as a kindergarten parent and having a middle school, junior high, or elementary student and a high school kid, you get to see the progress and you get to see the needs across the district. So that's important to me. I'm often looking for that family to be able to help me and understand the journey, because if you journey through our schools, you understand the needs from school to school. So I appreciate that. Yes.
Good afternoon, Dr. Fisher. I understand the need for these improvements, but can someone explain why the district chose to bundle these projects together? Why not complete one project first, evaluate the financial impact, and then seek funding for the next project instead of asking taxpayers to support multiple projects at once?
Okay, great question, great question. So we've been looking at the needs across the district, and some of these needs have kind of lingered for a number of years. We've done studies, we've been looking at research, we've been looking, you know, some of these things have been pain points for years. That's why you look at question 2, it is, you know, it's off to the side. Our main priority is to be able to address the new school. But we certainly want to be able to do some other things across our other buildings in the district. So it's not always fair to say, well, I'm just going to do one school, I'm only servicing this, and we'll address that one issue. There are other needs. So we certainly wanted to be able to take advantage of renovations, such as if you look at our question number 2, which has a $4 a month impact. And I'm not going to minimize money, but it's just $4, right? But if we didn't get that, if that question didn't go through, our primary function would be to say, okay, we'll pivot and we'll focus on this school. So it's important for us to try to do as much as we can while we're in this endeavor. It is too costly to go back out 2 and 3 times. This is a very costly process, very costly when you talk about the time and energy, and the board commissioners they hear me say this all the time. It's a full-time job. And they hear I say, it's a full-time job. It requires a lot. So if you go back and forth in and out and say, well, let's do this again next year, it's consuming and it is draining, and also it may send the wrong message, you know, to our school community and the taxpayers that why you guys continue to ask for stuff. You keep asking for money, and I'm a firm believer of let's give it to the people and let the people have an opportunity to say, we're trying to bring some tax value to your community by servicing our educational system. So that's been the focus, and it's hard to kind of just say, you know, I got some schools they think it's preferential treatment. No, we are prioritizing what the needs are. You know, I got some schools who say, hey, I need to be painted. Well, you're not in the rotation for this year, you know, so we rotate. So we're doing a couple of those things, but we're trying to address everything. Because these are all my kids, all the buildings are mine. I'm like, all right, you know, I need to do something everywhere. So I think that's the expectation. And
Dr. Fisher,
hey, how you doing?
Thank you. I want to make a comment. I just want to commend all of you because I know a little bit about how it gets to do these things, and it's a lot of work, and that's why it's better to do it all at once, get it approved. So I really want to thank you, because I'm a resident who was about to leave Roselle because I didn't have anything for my little kids. There was nothing here. And not only, and I really commend you. You guys are doing, this is very smart, because also the greatest school is going to be the one for the younger kids. That's going to be the nicest one, the newest one for the young kids. That's going to bring people in. That's going to bring businesses in. That's going to keep families to stay here and not leave 2 or 3 years later. So that is great. And everything else that the town is doing, all the changes, I was leaving. I'm telling you, I was going to leave Roselle, and now I want to stay longer. But my question was probably a little dumb, I'm sorry, but is it going to be, the building is going to be on the west side where the wooded area is, or on that whole there, the landfill area, the building?
So we're not the landfill side. We are the forest side.
The forest side, the wooded area. We had a conversation with some of my my neighbors, and we're like, oh, I hope it's not on top of that landfill, because then they spend all the money and the building is going to fall down because that place is full of water. So we just want to make sure. I think that's good. No. And that's it. I just want to commend you. I hope this gets done. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to know, Dr. Fisher, how long will it take to build this school?
I'm not sure in terms of construction-wise. I mean, it is, first of all, the bond referendum approval process. First of all, I got to get past September 15th, and I'm not sure what happens next in terms of, as we get there, like, okay, how long does the bond selling process take? Then I know there's some architectural work. There's some other things that happen, which is time consuming. And as far as the digging in the ground, again, I don't have that timeline. I mean, I would like it like yesterday, but I understand everything takes time.
Okay, for kids that live in the 4th Ward, would they have to have transportation to get to Chandler Avenue? They have to pay bus?
Which one is 4th Ward? Let's see.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right, go. Yeah, okay, all right, okay.
By Pine Street Playground Park.
Yeah, so because we are, we don't necessarily have transportation here in the district. So we've already had, and it's interesting here in Roselle, most of our kids appear to be driven to school. You very seldom see anybody walking kids to school.
Oh yeah, I see them walking.
There are transportation is not inclusive in our plan. So we will probably have a future conversation about, on the forest side of our town, what could we do to assist? So that's something that has been thrown out on the table as well.
So when you did your budget for the school year for 2027, you didn't include this? Why you didn't include all of this?
This bond referendum?
Yes.
Because this auditorium would have been filled with a host of taxpayers saying, who came up with that
Well,
number?
regardless, our taxes went up regardless.
Yeah,
So,
but again, I would say there's no way to put an $89 million project on a school budget. We can only increase our school budget by a 2% cap annually. So that's as much as we can increase it. So what that means is my local share here in this town is $26 million from the taxpayers. I can only increase that by 2%
Really?
annually. That amount only. So there's no way I could get a building with that little amount of money.
okay, so if this don't get approved, what you gonna do next? Because it's a possibility. You know they will come out and not approve it because of taxes.
Well, I told folks, I'm very optimistic. When I just believe that there's a need. When you tell people,
I understand that.
When there's a need, I mean, I'm obviously I would be heartbroken, but that won't stop me. I might come back 2 months from now and do it again and say, okay. I might come back 3 months from that and do it again, because I think it's so important to continue to let folks know that there is a need. And I'm not doing this for a luxury thing. This has nothing to do with luxury. There's such a need. So I'm optimistic that we're moving in the right direction.
Okay.
But you just pray for me, okay? Pray for the process. Okay. No, I got you.
She's
Okay.
first. I'm going to try to get to everyone, but I want to do it in sequence of
Okay,
hands.
Vanna. Okay.
Good evening, Dr. Fisher.
Hey, how you doing?
Let me just preface my whatever I'm going to say with, I do appreciate the opportunity to have a new school in our district because it is necessary and it is needed, and we've been fighting this fight for a long time. And I want to make sure that there are some financials that I would like to ask you, but I know you don't have the answers in front of you. So I'll wait for the August 18th meeting. But I would like to ask, you mentioned that there's a 18 to 21, the services in the central office. Where is the central office moving to, one? And two, we have an organization here in Roselle that supports individuals with different abilities. And they're a very good organization and they do a very good job of it. Why wouldn't we partner with them and free up that space for something else? And I'm not taking away from the children with different abilities because that is a necessity. But why wouldn't we do that? And again, based on the pre-K numbers, I know I'm giving you a lot. Based on the pre-K numbers, you said 25% of that we are servicing. We have a $300 number for students. Do you think where you are now with what you have in the plan will accommodate this 300 number? Is that in the growth that you're expecting? And I don't know, I have one more question for you. Based on the question that lady just asked, I think you need to have an idea of when the project will be completed. Because this dad just stated that he's gonna stay because of this project. But you have no idea when it's gonna start and when it's gonna end. And his child will maybe 10 by the time this project gets done. So I think it's good for you to have an idea. Is it a 5-year plan? Is it a 6-year look forward? That you have that number that you can give to the residents, because he may not get the value of that project because of that.
Yeah,
So.
and that's a good question. When we have on that August 16th, that's a great question for my bond folks who can speak to how long the bond process takes. Then we talk from the architect side, they'll be able to answer what that takes in terms of going out for bids and so sorts of things. So I'm leaving those types of questions. I have to give you the vaguest answer so that they can give this most specific, so that when you go back to the tape, you say, well, you said 3 years. And I said, no, I'm going to divert to those individuals. Regarding our preschool universe, I have 2 people in here who are part of our preschool population, and they will tell you that our universe has been, there are 300 plus kids who are part of that preschool universe. So part of what our goal is to really cut that in half and to be able to service the optimal. I mean, we're looking at bringing an additional, I think another 75 kids this year. We got another 30, 40 kids we were talking about who will be able to participate. So as we think future forward, we're anticipating, we're trying to project out. We don't know what that future preschool, we know what the current number looks like now based on residency right now. So we're now looking at trying to come up with metrics on what does it look like with new homes, or whether they're 1 or 2 bedroom homes. So those are numbers that help us kind of gauge, because we really have to gauge. So I think we'll be right there in the range, but as I mentioned before, because we have to, as part of the preschool expansion grant process, we have to have community partners. So certainly overflow students would have those opportunities to go to those locations. So I think we're doing the best of both worlds, trying to accommodate on both ends. 18 and 12. So, yeah, so I got my special services director in there. I don't know if our kids necessarily participate in. They currently do not participate in that program. We partner with them in other ways, and it's also a course associated with that program. But wouldn't it still be beneficial for them to partner with a program that is fully established? Michael.
I had the chance to ask question.
The question is, wouldn't it be beneficial to partner? Sorry, wouldn't it be beneficial to partner with an organization that has a fully established program, such as Inroads to Opportunities, as opposed to us trying to use a space that is not sufficient for that population of individuals because they need space to interact and to do the kinds of what they need. And the central office is small. When you look at the Inroads facility, it's a huge facility that takes up almost a whole, almost, I don't know, it's like 5-6 acres, a whole block that has the facility already. So I think you could use that space if you chose to in a different way that could facilitate what you're trying to do with the expansion.
Yeah, and again, we've explored a number of opportunities and options. So, and I think somebody mentioned about what is revenue generating. Certainly, I do believe that would be also a revenue generating opportunity for surrounding districts who have kids who may also need, or adults who may also need to take advantage of those types of services. So I think it is a twofold process. So not only will you be able to use your new location to service your community, but also opportunities to bring in additional revenue for an out-of-district placement of, let's say, Linden, for example, if there's an adult who needed to participate in the program. So those are things that we've had conversations around, but our priority has been able to try to identify how do we service our kids. And certainly, you can talk offline with Ms. Coleman further about that particular aspect.
Okay, sir. For the new school, the project cost estimated is 79.7 million. So when can we get a breakdown of the cost? And did we have a comparison of any new school built of similar kind in New Jersey or nearby town? Recently, did we have any comparison? And how can, I think this is the same question that someone asked earlier, how can we ensure that the money is utilized properly? I mean, I know so many things in Roselle, the town and everything. I see so many things that they are complaining that the right people is not there and the money is not properly utilized. So that will be taxpayer money. So how can we ensure that that gets very transparent and people don't get advantage of this big money?
So there are mechanisms in place in terms of how we expend our finances, which is, again, in our meeting we'll have our business administrative folks who can speak to that in terms of all those safeguards on how we procure services and how we pay invoices and those sorts of things. So there is one who's charged with that responsibility, ensuring that dollars are used appropriately throughout the entire process. So at that August 18th date, if you're available, to participate in that conversation, that's a great question for our fiscal people.
So when can we get a detailed breakdown of cost? I mean, you say that there is per square footage $600. Now there will be different kind of spaces in the school. So I don't believe that all space equals same. You can just put like square foot and 600. So when can this information can be exposed to general public?
Okay, so I'll get that question to our finance team so they can give you an itemized, again, that is the industry standard, if the industry standard of the $600, but they can tell you better and give you a more itemized look at what those costs are. That's as best I can give you in terms of that right at this current moment.
Okay, hello. I'm Claudia Goulden, and listening to the questions, I think that as a teacher myself, we need to understand the importance of education, and I congratulate you for what you're doing. And to answer some of the questions that I hear about how, for example, the gentleman is going to benefit from this, whether his children are here or not at the age of, let's say, 2nd grade, it's still going to be beneficial, whether his children go there or not. It's the community that we're in. If the children go to school, and especially in the younger ages, they get ready for the test for 3rd grade. With 3rd grade testing is very important for the state so that we can have more funding. The better we educate our students, the better a society we have, a community we have. So it's very important, whether we have children or not, that this gets passed. But my question is, how do we get, how can I help out? Do I go door to door and talk to people like, hey, come out and vote? Is that, because I can do that.
Yeah, well, you can do that. Unfortunately, I can't tell people how to vote. I can just share the information. I can't even, say, hey, say yes. I can't, that's not,
Yeah, because education is very important,
Yeah.
especially to someone like me who has been living here for 16 years. When they come around and they're like, you want to sell your house? No, I don't. I want to stay here. I love Roselle, and it is very important. My son is right now in high school, but even when he goes to college, I'm still going to be pro Roselle education, because I do believe, and we all need to understand that it's where it begins with the student, with the children. Those are the children who are going to be outside walking in the streets, going to school, as opposed to when we want to go to school, right? But where do we start? We start in preschool, in kindergarten, in first grade, second grade. Get them ready for that third grade testing where they feel like, wow, we made it. And Roselle, is top of the line right here, with the rest of the other towns in New Jersey. Or in Union County. Let's start with that.
Yeah. And just to end on that, I know they're passing the mic. We had
on the ground.
Yes.
We had at this year's high school graduation one of the most moving experiences. We had a family of doctors who were part of the keynote speaker at graduation. A family of doctors who came through the Roselle schools. And when I looked at that family, all the way down to all the way up to their mom, who's a nurse, and said all her children are doctors. And it's just one of those proud moments that you just think about, pouring into kids. That's what the charge is. Mm-hmm. That's what the charge is. That's what the charge is. Okay.
Good evening, Dr. Fisher. As you know, the district's been talking about building a school and ending the multiple transitions from well before COVID. So I'm glad to see it coming forward. My concern is in two places. One is the cost. And I'm actually kind of glad to say that I think I heard you say if it doesn't pass, you'll just come back again. Because, like I said, my concern is the cost. Yeah. My question, however, is the pre-K. And you're right, there's a lot of our pre-K goes towards early intervention. Can any of this information be provided to the community so that we better understand how many of our kids these pre-K kids that are not early intervention will have access to pre-K within district, and whether that's how that has been moving over the years, how that has been increasing over the years. Also, the number of classrooms, given that we do have a lot of children with special needs, we want them integrated into the classrooms. Will this plan give us lower class sizes? And how many children are you anticipating per grade based on historically how these numbers have come forward?
Yeah, so we should, so you had a couple of questions there.
That's okay.
My SPED team, they're out there and they're working with the early intervention numbers of kids coming in. So that's another conversation in terms of those trends. And those trends. So if you want to have a more intimate conversation about that, they probably can share that on that. That's not actually a part of my notes, but there is a population of kids that we continue to service as they're coming through early intervention and so forth. We can certainly share that type of information. And one of the things as we put these presentations together, there are all types of questions that come out, and some of them are right there, and then some of them are on the peripheral, and typically they're handled in other areas. But all those areas you mentioned are priorities for us in terms of looking to ensure that we keep class sizes down. We'll probably, at our next presentation, we'll probably share out our anticipated class sizes, our current and what we're looking to do for the upcoming, through the bond referendum process. So we'll share that out, be more specific, not just give you an arbitrary number just to say it, and all of a sudden, you got me on record saying you said it was only 15 kids in the class, but certainly that's something that we pride ourselves on in making sure we have manageable class sizes. But it's our younger grades which we are seeing increasing numbers that are increasing class size currently. So future forward, our goal is to make sure that we keep it to a more manageable level.
How are you, Dr. Fisher? Just to jump back to the one question about the board offices, I don't think you mentioned where they were going. I'll go one by one. I think it's
So
more
our
helpful.
board, so one of the things we talked about, we have additional strategies on dispersing our central office staff, self-included. I'll be displaced. It doesn't, you know, I tell the team, we go wherever. I said our first call is to make sure that we rewire this entire school district, and that means that you may no longer be in this centralized location, because the business is the business, and it can happen in different components. So we've identified places across the entire district that we will be dispersed as a central office unit.
Okay, and just to stay on that building for 1 second, the retail space that you were talking about, what do you mean by that? Like an actual storefront in the district office?
So kids learn. Ms. Coleman, you might, the retail space, can you share a little information on our retail space for our?
So the goal will be to actually have, like, the storefront will also have sell Roselle Tower in that particular storefront. It'll be a kitchen area there, so we might be able to get some coffee and beverages and things like that.
Okay. So retail space that we run, not that you're like renting out to a coffee shop or something. That's what I was.
The kids are learning retail.
Usually I'm drawing when I see retail space, it's in an apartment building and they're trying to put a business in it. Okay, that solves that one. So just to go back to the question earlier about the two questions. So my main question on that is, why was the second question made contingent upon the first one passing? If both of these are needs, they could be separate questions. If the second question passes, why not allow that to happen even if the first didn't?
So that's a great question. You know, and typically, we didn't approach this bond referendum without doing research across the entire state, watching trends. And certainly, there are odds in everything. There are odds, okay? There are times when we studied a host of projects where the smaller project, which wasn't the main priority, it got approved versus the big project. So it was a determination that, hey, listen, let's go with this as a two-question part for two reasons. One, we're going to show the community that this main project is our main project. If you decide that you don't want to go with our second one, we have to begin to look at alternate strategies on how can we still address that in a future mechanism. So we didn't make the second question as the priority question. The vestibules for our school, if that was, which is part of our safety plan, part of what we determined was, well, we would have to create a workaround. What other strategies could we do to make sure that we have safety spaces? What other strategies would we be able to use for our innovative spaces? So it was stretched out over a number of years. So the priority was not to have, as one question, but it certainly is contingent upon both. There's no sense of going with our question two as a loaner, but that's not going to solve the bigger problem that we have on our question one. Question one allows us to solve our biggest problem, and question two allows us to do all those extra ancillary things that allow us to move the district forward. So it was systematic, and it was actually looking at data across the state of New Jersey that showed us that it was the preferred method to go this particular approach, similar to September as an election month as opposed to other months in the year. They are systematic. So none of this stuff that we've done has been done randomly. Like most people ask, why September? Well, the research says, statistically says, so we were able to systematically make sure that we did anything. And then the other thing that was important to know is that we were on the state's timeline. There's approvals, and you don't get it when you want. You put through processes, and it takes time to work itself through the bureaucracy, which took, you're waiting. And I almost, the truth be told, our notification for our last information, we got the very last week of June, and we had to rush to have a meeting just to get it approved so everything is time sensitive. And I just want the folks to know, maybe I'll make this my last question and just end with this note. We spent a lot of time leading up to this day in September to 15th, a lot of time. A lot of committee work, a lot of conversations, a lot of planning, a lot of internal disagreements, but looking at the data and looking at where is the priorities. Like, don't tell me about this program. No, where's the priorities? And looking at program by program, how do we service this community? And that's why when we talk about the community space, that was something that I've heard for a number of years. I said, we need to create space for community access. I said, so we can take that out of the conversation. This is not a school exclusive space. It is something that we want to make sure that the community has access to. So we've taken all those things to be very systematic to say, we can solve this problem, check, we got that one. We're solving this problem, let's check that one. So we went through a lot of things, and initially, this was a lesser square footage facility. But the original design we initially had was very similar to most of our schools. It had a combined auditorium, cafetorium. I said, there's no way you're going to get me to put my name on something that does what we're already doing. I said, we need to have these exclusive spaces. We need to make sure that we're ADA compliant, make sure that we can have accessibility of all abilities, including our, not only our students, our families, but also our staff members who have some challenges. So that was one of those priorities that we made sure that we hit on all those particular points. And was it difficult? Yes, because everybody has competing interests. Everybody has everybody. I couldn't even put my 2 cents in there because they had the balance in. It was just about making sure that you met the needs of everyone.
So I'll just ask my last question and then pass it on. But so my biggest concern obviously is cost, and specifically the state aid percentage that we're getting on this. And you mentioned the state goes through, does their process, and then they decide what's eligibles. But my question is, why was that decision made, right? The state only determined $8 to $9 million of an $80 million school was an eligible cost. So why was 70 million of that school deemed to be ineligible costs, right? If the district gets 57% of eligible costs covered, what about this project specifically was the state's issue in that not more than 8 million was deemed to be an eligible cost?
So, and I'll let our financial people give you an explanation on all the particulars on how that formula works, because they only fund, I believe, like $150 of the cost. There's some very unique calculations. So that's what the state comes up with.
Right, I've heard that number.
So
And
what we do is
even at 150, if we're saying our building's 600 a square foot, then that would deem 25% of this eligible, which should be closer to 20 million in eligible costs, not 8. So something about those numbers is just bugging me supremely. So that's what I'm trying to dig into, is why is the state only deeming that little portion of it? I mean, it's less than 10% of the project is eligible according to the state.
So if you email that question to Vote 2026, in advance, what we can do is actually share that information, because it is a very unique calculation. You know, when I first got into this process, I was under the impression that we were going to receive 40% of the cost. And then we get the calculation, they say that from the state finance department I forgot the name of the department, when they do their calculations, they give you your PEC cost, and you look at it and say, okay, all right, this is what, and it's based on that formula. They take all your numbers, they say these are unhoused students, so it's a very unique calculation. But if you send that to Vote 2026 at roselleschools.org, we can probably get that more clarified answer in that computation. So listen, I want to thank, yes, yeah, yes.
Thank you.
Once again, everyone, I'd like to thank you for coming out tonight. I want to thank you for coming out tonight. One of the things I've noticed over time as being a board member, in 2018, when I was first selected to be on the board, we were educating approximately 2,100 students. And that was only 8 short years ago. That number is increasing with the housing, with people just deciding to move here, and we're over 3,000 students that we educate now. That number is going to continue to grow, and I think that this project is it for the right time. But more importantly, when I'm running my errands, and I don't know about you guys, but when I'm in Cranford, when I'm in Clark, when I'm in Scotch Plains, when I'm even in Kenilworth, I see that they are expanding on their schools. Kenilworth just expanded. Clark is expanding. Cranford is expanding. Why not Roselle? Why not our students? Why not our children? And I think it is important to ask all of us. And one of our board members said it at a last meeting. What do we value? Do we value our children? Do we value education? And I think we all need to ask ourselves that question. And I'm in the same boat as you guys. I'm a stay-at-home solopreneur. And when you tell me my taxes are gonna go up, I am concerned. But when I see my assessed value at $40, I'm like, okay. And then I went out and I spent $40 on takeout for the family. Priorities, right? I think I can prioritize readjusting some things. But I do want, for every student here, yours, mine, as Dr. Fisher said, they're ours because we govern for them. We legislate for them. I think that we need to ask ourselves, why aren't we thinking in terms of what's good for them? Because I would want to make sure that they had the best foundation so that when they go on and they do things in life, we can say that we gave them that start right here in Roselle. That's all I wanted to say, Dr. Fisher.
So thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, vote 2026 at Roselle Schools. Please be sure to take a look at our images here. Follow us on all our social media platforms. The QR code has a host of information that you provided, but thank you for your questions. Hopefully I'll see you on August 26th. If you're on social media and you follow us, please share. August 18th. I was thinking about my leadership retreat. Yes, please take it. Oh, there's an event next week. If you could share with your friends, cool off and check in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week. We have our board commissioners that will be at all our school locations. Come out and support them to get the word out to your neighbors, your council, your 4th Ward, 5th Ward. But thank you all. Please come up and get a look at the image.
How you doing, bro? Good. What's up? Hey, how you doing? Good to see you.
When you get up on that council, right? Park Apartments is paying the borough like around $2 million, probably more than that.
Okay.
When that was originally built, part of that money was supposed to go to the schools.
Oh wow.
Fight for that money.
That's
for
good.
that money,
That's good. That's good to know.
Because that was part of the community impact. It was supposed to be for the schools. And ever since that came out, that borough has kept every dollar.
Hey, how you doing? How are you? How's everything? Good.
Look into that, Marion.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing.
Same ratio.
Yeah, you're right.
Hi, I'm Dr. Fisher, the proud superintendent of the Roselle Public Schools. Our district has always been a place of possibility. Take it from me, I arrived here as a substitute teacher back in 1990, and I've spent my entire career serving Roselle students, and I want every one of them to find their own path to success. We work hard to provide students with extensive opportunities here at the Roselle Public Schools. The Board of Education and district leaders have found creative ways to fund building improvements at no additional cost to taxpayers. But there are limits to what we can do with our current space. Our youngest students feel the most impact. We hold a lottery for our pre-K program, and dozens of students remain on our waiting list. Many of our pre-K and kindergarten students attend school in rented space at a cost of more than $500,000 a year. These classrooms are not designed according to New Jersey standards. Many are too small and they have no bathrooms or storage. Plus, the lack of dedicated school space for early elementary education creates crowding across the rest of the district.
For many members of our community, the conversation about building a school isn't new. What was once a future consideration has now become an urgent reality. Our district is serving more students with more diverse learning needs. We are running out of space to serve our students effectively. Renting more space may address today's needs, but it is a Band-Aid on a challenge that has been growing for years. That is why the Roselle Board of Education is moving forward with a plan to transform our district and community. On September 15th, our community will vote on a bond referendum that would finance critical school improvements. When voters approve a referendum, Roselle receives state aid that we cannot access through our regular school budget. State aid lowers the amount that our community pays towards the project costs. We also want our senior homeowners to know that there are programs available to help ease the burden of property taxes.
908.
Using one application, seniors can sign up for 3 state tax relief programs.
The bond referendum includes projects that could make a powerful difference for our students and elevate our entire
so everybody
community.
can see it and on the different
A
platforms.
new
This is
3-story
free, by the way. I'm
school
not
building for pre-K through grade 2
this
will be
can,
built
people
on
can
Chandler
actually see
Avenue
these
on
online.
property the district already owns.
Because I think that it was
Students
very
will have a
important for
space
this
for
to know.
services and programs that support
I don't need
a
that.
strong foundation.
Yeah.
All pre-K
Thank you, bro.
and kindergarten classrooms would have a bathroom, which is a state requirement. The gym and auditorium will be available for community use outside of school hours.
One of the most meaningful benefits of a new school building is that it would be fully ADA compliant, so all students, families, staff, and community can take part in school life with dignity and ease. This issue is deeply personal to me. My son is a former Roselle Public School student who suffered a life-changing brain injury while he was a student. Today he uses a wheelchair, and because many of our older buildings were not designed with modern accessibility standards in mind, attending certain school events and activities can be challenging or in some cases simply impossible. A new school would offer learning spaces that are modern, safe, and welcoming to everyone. We also could create a more connected and consistent educational journey for all students. Our students attend as many as 6 different schools, from pre-K through graduation, and each move requires adjustments to new buildings, routines, and classmates. More space will provide flexibility to reduce transitions district-wide, giving students more time to form relationships and settle in and learn.
We will be able to offer 2 junior high schools with Grace Wilday and Let It Be More, both serving grades 6 through 8. Wilday will be a school for the arts, and Moore will be a school for innovation. Those 2 schools, as well as the elementary schools, will get makerspaces through the bond referendum. Makerspaces offer hands-on modern instruction. Our STEAM machine currently brings those types of opportunities to schools on a rotating basis. This project will provide permanent spaces for innovative learning. At Abraham Park High School, our historic auditorium needs attention. Proposed projects include new light fixtures, stage lighting, repainted and restored walls and ceiling, and a refinished stage floor. Carpeting, drapes will be updated, and the balcony rail would be replaced to enhance safety. Of course, safety is a priority at Roselle Schools, and we need to make our school entrances more secure. Now, this referendum includes safety vegetables at all schools, so office staff could screen visitors before they enter the building. The final project reflects our commitment to serve all learners. We will convert part of our central office into a transition center to prepare adult students with special needs for independent living and the workforce.
At the heart of this referendum is a simple belief. When we invest in our schools, we invest in the future of our entire community. Strong schools impact where families choose to live, help support property values, and contribute to the overall vitality of our borough. This referendum is not only about addressing today's needs, it is about positioning Roselle for tomorrow by creating schools and shared spaces that reflect the pride, potential, and promise of our borough.
The bond referendum will be held on a special election date on September 15th so that voters can focus solely on the school ballot questions. Voting by mail will be available for the election. To apply to vote by mail and for other important information, such as voter deadlines and polling locations, please visit our website. Now we ask you to see our website and social media accounts to learn more about the proposed projects. We will hold informational events and we will have presence at all school and community activities from now through the vote. I want to thank you for your interest in the future of the Roselle Public Schools. And remember to vote September 15th.